Yo, everybody, welcome back. This is Deal with the Devil by KloWhispers, Chapter 2, Focus. Now, passing the gates at the entrance of UA was sort of like a dream, at least to Izuku. It felt like one. It was so weird being here, and also, it could be his first and last time if he fucked up his exam. Like he thought before, he felt pretty confident about the written part. The practical, a little less. He was 90% sure that they would have to fight robots. It's what the exam was every year, for a while now. So there was no reason it wouldn't be robots this time. There weren't any more public details about the practical exam though, so that's pretty much all Izuku knew about it, fighting robots. Not at all a very biased and unrealistic test. Izuku took a deep breath and started walking towards where all the first years were going, a sort of presentation where all was going to be explained to them. He wasn't the one to pray, mostly because his desperate past prayers had never been answered, but right now, he really didn't want to be seen by Bakugo or any of his old classmates. He just wasn't in the mood. As he walked, he was observing the students around him, all of his age and looking as nervous as he felt. For a couple of years now, he was capable of keeping his emotions in check. It was actually one of the first lessons he had been taught by Chizame. During a fight, being emotional could get you killed, so controlling your fear, your panic, and your anger was a must. It took a while, mostly because he was a crybaby, but now, with countless hours of training and meditation, he could do it well. He, of course, had his moments of weakness, but he kept those for when he was alone. But anyway, stop being distracted. He had an exam to focus on. President Mike's speech had been intense. He had been thrilled when he had saw it was pro hero President Mike that was presenting and explaining, because oh my god, he was really in front of him in full costume and using his quirk. And he had a device around his neck that could direct the sound of his voice, and it was so cool. Right, it had taken a few moments of calming his inner fanboy to then focus on what he was saying. And he had been right about his prediction. It was going to be a 10-minute run inside a real-size imitation of a city, where there were going to be robots scattered all around, different sizes for a different amount of points. He could do this. He could run fast, find anything that could be used as a weapon, find a good viewing point, and then he would hunt. That was his plan, at least. A student had interrupted President Mike's explanation, and from what Izuku had seen, with his dark blue hair, square jaw, and even more squared glasses, he maybe was related to the pro hero Ingenium. They looked so much alike. He may have seen him while entering the meeting room, and had caught a glimpse of some sort of leg engines. Kinda cool, but also kind of annoying with its questions. If he had just let President Mike continue, he would have explained everything. He had then mentioned those 4 types of villains, bots, that had 0-point value. An interesting detail that surely wasn't said for nothing, as he stored the information in the corner of his brain. While heading to his practical exam area, thankful that Bakugo wasn't with him because he wouldn't have had the time to make points and try and run away from him, and that sitting next to him during the presentation had been stressful enough. Even if Bakugo hadn't said anything, he thought back on his written exam. He had done pretty well. He had rushed through it, writing fast, and his wrist and hand had started cramping a little at the end. He was confident he had at least an 85, but he hoped for a 90. He had been so grateful for the analysis questions. He had let his inner analyst run free. Izuku stopped walking and looked up. For a brief moment, his heart stopped beating, but then started again. No need to panic. He could do it. He could. He was now standing in front of the city replica, huge doors closing the entrance, and he was encircled by a lot of students. He took another deep breath, rolled his shoulders, and tried to relax his tense muscles. He couldn't allow himself to have a cramp. Okay, focus. While waiting for all the other students to arrive, he looked around him, searching, analyzing. Maybe there would be any students with useful quirks for him to know about. He spotted a few with obvious mutations, horns, wings, and different skin color. Focus! Most of them were wearing sports clothes or any kind of clothes that were adapted to their quirk. Izuku himself was wearing what he wore usually during his training with Chizame. Black cargo pants, comfortable boots, and a loose long-sleeved black shirt. He would have had his belts and straps to carry his blades, but unfortunately, no weapons or tools were allowed if its purpose wasn't to help support the quirk, and since he didn't have any quirk, he had hesitated to send a personal request to Principal Nezu, but in the end, he hadn't. If he was going to pass the practical, it was with what he had, and only that. Skills, determination, and pure spite. He had taken his fingerless gloves, though. Focus. He stopped watching the other attendants and looked up. Where he knew someone, probably President Mike, was in the tall sort of tower that was at equal distance from all the battle centers. All the students were here. No more were arriving, which meant, and start! It was soon going to start. Izuku reacted instantly, starting to run through the crowd of frozen, surprised students. What were they waiting for? To be given more instructions? All had been said, and during a real battle, there never was any countdown. He rushed through the wide-open doors straight into the city, followed by shouts of the other students. As he was headed towards a stop sign, he heard President Mike spoke his own thoughts. What's the matter? There's no real countdown in a battle. Run, run! Behind him were now the sounds of all the people running and some shouting, all dispersing in the city, trying to find the first robot to destroy. Him, on the other hand, was arriving towards that stop sign. Focus. His heart was already beating faster, but it had just started. He took the pull of the sign with both hands and pulled. It was made of metal, but it wasn't the first time he had done this. He just needed a well-placed punch with his foot, and the pole bent at its bottom, and he put his whole weight on it. He used to be small and thin, feather-like, but while he had stayed small, he had put on some weight, all coming for the muscle mass he gained. He grunted, pushed a little more, and yes! The bottom of the pole broke. Perfect. He had a metal pole. It wouldn't be enough to take down a whole robot, but it would certainly help. He took a few seconds to get used to its weight and how to move it, then nodded to himself. The whole ordeal took about a minute, 9 minutes to go. He needed to hurry up. And so, for the next 7 minutes, he took down robots. He had gone for the ones worth 1 point first, to see how they worked and how to take them down the fastest way possible. Throwing the pole like a spear into their eye was a good technique. The material there was apparently less sturdy than the rest, so the pole sank into it and with almost no resistance. It made them sort of glitch, slow their movements, and so all Izuku had to do was climb on them, which was easier than expected and very doable. There were enough grips for him to take and rise at the top of the robot, take back his spear pole, and behead them. It was like strangling someone, passing his 2 arms around its neck, a weak point of its construction, because it allowed it to move its head around, so it had no hard armor, and all Izuku had to do was squeeze and pull. Most of the time, he didn't need to take the whole head off, because then most of its wires were too stretched or broken. It stopped working and fell down. Killed. And then he jumped down and started running towards the next robots. Between his takedowns, he was helping other students. Sometimes, some of them were stuck under debris or really struggling with a robot, and he would step in and do his best. Killing machines would be fun for a while, but helping people, that is what he wanted to do. That's why he was here. Izuku was about to go towards another robot when it got destroyed before him by a blonde boy with a sort of sparkling laser coming out of his belly, which was pretty cool. He also had a belt. Was that a support device or part of his quirk? How was that laser sparkling, and what was it made of? Light? Maybe it... He was pulled out of his thoughts by a loud noise. It startled him, and he turned around and looked up and up and up. What the fuck is that? He thought. As the massive robot, taller than the buildings, was making its way down the road towards them, students were running away from it, which was totally understandable. Izuku was still observing it, though, because there was something he had forgotten, a detail that was just there. Oh, that was the 0-pointer, wasn't it? Value of 0 points, just there to mess with the participants. It's destroying everything in its path, though. That's pretty dangerous. I hope they have some sort of command system to stop him moving from afar, because in the corner of his eye, he caught something. There was a girl, there, stuck underneath a bunch of broken walls, and shit, it was going to crush her. Without thinking more, he rushed towards her, navigating between panicked students and debris. Don't panic. You don't have time for that. Someone needs help. Focus on that. Focus. Hey, need a hand? The girl, brown short hair and brown eyes, looked up at him with a relieved expression. She then nodded and proceeded to explain that she was only stuck and was too tired to use her quirk, which would nullify the gravity of any object. How cool was that? He was about to say something, but then he turned around to the 0-pointer. It was getting way too close. He wouldn't have the time to get her out. He gritted his teeth, took 2 seconds to make his decision. His eyes tracked down the robots, searching for anything, weaknesses, something. His eyes went on its feet. All robots, he had noticed, had a sort of control panel on them. It was inaccessible, of course, but surely this one must have one too. One that could be easily reached, since the people that built them and constructed them had to use it. So, was he going to take the risk and run head first towards the huge feet of the robot and perhaps get crushed in the process? To save someone, he would do it in a second. He turned back to the girl, said in a rushed voice, "I'm gonna try and stop it. Use that time to get free. Try to use your quirk even if you feel you can't." Without waiting for an answer, he charged forward. As he approached the robot, time seemed to slow. He felt as if he was hyper-aware of everything that was happening around him. He ran as fast as he ever ran, avoiding fallen debris and one already on the ground. He felt his heart beat fast but steadily. His breath was deep and controlled. His leg and arm muscles were burning. The noise was deafening, but he clenched his teeth. He was way too close to the feet, but he just needed to see. There! At the joint between the start of the leg and up to the foot, was a sort of closed door on the middle panel. Exactly what he was searching for. A quick look back informed him that he was far away from the girl, who was still stuck and apparently looking at him with wide eyes. So, he focused back and jumped on the moving foot, one hand to grip on the corner of the metal, and the other planted his pole into the facade. A shock went through him as his foot went down, almost making him fall. Come on, all you need to do is cut those wires. It should slow him down. He climbed higher, took out the pole, and with all his strength, hit it into the panel. It went in, and sparks of electricity went out of it. A quick thank you to his electricity-proof gloves, and then with a loud crackling noise, the whole robot slowed down and stopped moving. With a relieved sigh, Izuku let himself fall, landing on his feet. He looked up and saw how close he was to the struck girl. That was close. As he walked back to her to help her, President Mike's voice resonated through the city. "The test is over!" He ignored it and started to lift one of the broken walls that was over the girl. Here, can you move now? He asked. Oh, yes, I can. A bit of shuffling, a grunt, and then, thanks, you can let it go now. Izuku nodded and let go of the wall, which fell heavily on the ground. He turned towards the girl who was looking at him with slightly pink cheeks and a thankful expression on her face. He still wasn't used to being social, since his only interaction for the past 5 years had been with a villain, his bullies, and an absent mother. So he didn't really know what to say, and there was a few seconds of awkward silence. Wow, how did you do that? I mean, that was really cool. Izuku blinked, not used to any form of praise. Chizame wasn't the one to say nice things or to praise him. When Izuku did something right, he usually was less harsh on the rest of their training session, and sometimes brought him some food. Izuku shrugged. Well, every robot has some sort of panel control, and I thought that surely this one had to have one easily accessible, so... He didn't end his sentence, letting the girl understand the rest. Oh, that's clever! She nodded fiercely, and Izuku almost smiled. She was nice. She also didn't know his quirkless status, so he stayed on his guard. Oh, my name is Urarako Chako. Nice to meet you. She bowed slightly, a big smile on her face. Midori Izuku, likewise. After that, she continued chatting happily, overwhelming him a little. She was nice, don't get him wrong, but she was a little too bubbly for him. Then everyone had headed to the exit, and Pro Hero Recovery Girl was checking on everybody to heal any injuries. Izuku himself wasn't badly hurt. A few scratches here and there, but no open wounds, no heavy blood loss, and he was honestly grateful for that. He had a pretty high pain tolerance, so it wasn't the pain that was bothering him. It was just annoying to be slowed by his injuries. He only knew that tomorrow his muscles would scream of soreness, and it wasn't going to be a good excuse to miss training with Chizame, the statistic bastard. After changing back into normal clothes, saying goodbye to Uraraka with a promise on her side to meet back when they were both into the hero course, he left the UA campus. It had been a long, stressful day, but it wasn't the most exhaustive one he ever lived. Nothing compared with Chizume's training. As he walked to the train station, he realized he hadn't counted his points. He grimaced. Well, he surely got some villain points and some rescue points. Also, he didn't know if taking down the zero-pointer had any value, but surely the giant robot wasn't there for nothing. The exams were organized by the director himself. He had an intelligence quirk. Everything must be a calculated move. But not everyone was thinking like him. Izuku, a paranoid teenager with too much imagination and bad experiences in life, who was overthinking everything and anything. So, he shook his head and concentrated on getting home. Then, he would meet with Chizame, who he couldn't wait to tell his mentor about the events of today. With that, he felt lighter on his feet, and let himself relax his tense body. He did the best he could. Okay, so that was the end of this one. I will finish off chapter 2 in the next video. I will try and record tomorrow and get that out tomorrow, but otherwise, yep. So, hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you for listening.